Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me?
We can, Karen.
Awesome, thank you. I do have noon straight up, but we will give it another minute. Thank you, everyone, for joining this morning. A gorgeous Monday morning. I bet hard to come to work for sure, but we'll have everybody sign into the chat. So please bring your chat up and bring your print out your name and facility. I'd like to see who's on today from DHHS. I do see Kristen. Thank you for joining. Did I hear Brian Lenz? Sadie, I'm glad you're on. Anybody else from state? I know Robin's not going to make it today. Do I understand? Anybody else from state yet? Okay, as you're signing in, please go ahead and sign into chat. You will find chat there on the ribbon. If you don't see it on your ribbon, look under the little three dots that say more on Zoom. You'll find your chat box there, but do please put your name in. So I appreciate everyone going ahead and signing in today. All right. The meeting is recorded simply because that serves as minutes for me. This will be posted on our MPHL website for those of us who are not able to join in today. I'm going to go ahead and give Sadie the floor because I know she's got a meeting at 10 o'clock or 10:30, excuse me, and wanted to share a few things. I hope you don't mind, Sadie. I went ahead and put everything down on the agenda just so it was there for you in case you needed it.
Oh yeah, thanks. This is good. Yeah, the little J was supposed to be a smiley emoji, but yes. So I guess I'll just go ahead and get started. So we have noticed quite an increase in labs not submitting reportable specimens to NPHL. And we know labs are busy. We know some are short-staffed, staff turnover, et cetera. So we understand that we're not going to get every reportable specimen submitted to NPHL, but we're more concerned with long-term issues regarding, like, it's not just a one-off situation, it's maybe a training issue or something similar. So we decided we do monitor these specimens that are not received at NPHL. So if we detect 2 or more enteric reportables not submitted to your facility within the same month, we'll probably reach out to your lab director, micro supervisor, something for notification and process improvement. Few examples. I know some new staff forget that reportables need to be sent, but we've also had like salmonellas in urine cultures, wound cultures, where techs think that those aren't supposed to be submitted because they're not stool cultures, but we want all salmonella submitted regardless of site. Same thing with the other organisms. If they're in an unusual site, we still want those submitted. If you can help us, please post reminder notifications and notify bench techs that reportable organisms need to be submitted to NPHL. Karen actually came out with like a quick guide, which has the organisms that need to be submitted, with which shipping category A or B, and then the orders that you would put in new alert. So we can probably send that out if you need that. Are there any questions about that? Okay. And yeah, I just wanted to remind you guys, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, actually, Sadie, I was going to ask our audience here if there's something that is an issue to do this. And I know that sometimes it's just a workflow problem. If there could, like you mentioned, a note or something posted on the benches as a reminder. But is there something else we can do to assist you with that task to make it easier for you? Feel free to unmute or put any comments into the chat if you have any. I know one thing that I have done recently, which is to update the quick guide. That particular quick guide has in the past had some subjective comments on it, so people really didn't fully understand what the state needed. And so I have tried to make it more clear on that particular quick draft. So I will be sending that out. So if it's an issue with that quick guide, let me know. We can make those changes. One of the most important changes we'll talk about with TB that we became aware of this past month. So I'll save that for then. I know Mary Jo does say that their micro goes to Yankton, and I've got other laboratories the same way, Mary Jo, that their laboratories may go to another out of state. So then the question is, does that organism come back to us? And Sadie, I'll let you speak to that. I know that she says she's never gotten them back in O'Neill, but do you get some of that information from other states if it goes out state?
Yeah, this is a great question. So yeah, we work with our other state health departments and state public health labs. So if a specimen, like a Nebraska resident seeks care in South Dakota, we actually coordinate with South Dakota and they provide the sequencing information on that specimen. And likewise, we have a lot of specimens that are maybe Iowa residents that we test here in Nebraska, and then we share that with Iowa. So yes, we do have an agreement that we share specimens between people. So you don't have to worry necessarily if specimens go out of state. We will track those down as long as they are going to a public health lab.
Yeah.
If you kiss at somebody, are you going to say that when your supervisor saying that?
No, of course not.
Any other comments?
25. No, Kirby, sport 25 and 465.
I think Jeanette is talking. Okay, there's, yeah.
Well, I got it. Yeah. Any other questions on this topic? Thank you, Sadie. Much appreciated.
Yes, wait, I want to go on the outbreaks real fast.
Right.
So yeah, basically we want specimens submitted because when they're submitted to our public health lab, we do sequencing and we are able to link this to either local or multi-state outbreaks. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about current outbreaks.
Sadie, we lost you. Hold on a second. Just give me a minute here. Can you unmute yourself?
She says you muted her.
I did. I accidentally did. So, and I can't figure out how to unmute. Chat. Oh dear. I go to more and if I make her co-host, can you say something now, Sadie? I don't see where to unmute you.
Test. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I don't know why I put my attendee code in. I don't know why it separated my phone line. Anyways, yes, multi-state outbreaks. So I put our current FDA foodborne investigations in the chat. You can check that out. One big outbreak that's happening right now is the Salmonella Oranienburg linked to an unknown source. And just for reference, so we were notified about this outbreak late September. 300 cases. And then since then, it's been progressing rapidly. So beginning of October, we were at 494 cases. And now just this week, we're like almost to 700 cases. In Nebraska, we have 8 cases currently, but I anticipate as we continue to get more specimens received at MPHL and sequence, that number is going to grow. I posted the investigation notice to this in the chat box. There's also going to be a web posting updated later today. I think we're going to have some exciting information, hopefully, regarding this outbreak. So that's one that's going on that's very active. We also have an outbreak of Salmonella Thompson linked to seafood. We just had 2 cases, and both of them traveled to Colorado, where they ate at separate restaurants and consumed different types of seafood, but they were from the same distributor, Northeast Seafood Co., and there was an investigation notice and a recall notice regarding that. As far as local outbreaks, we're continuing to see several norovirus outbreaks already this season. And just to let you guys know, I know I've reached out to some of you guys over the years, but in an effort to receive norovirus outbreak samples for several CDC grants and confirming the outbreak, we may request assistance from your lab with collection and or transportation. We ideally want the local health departments to do this coordination, but you know, Western Nebraska, some of the local health departments are several hours away from patients. So this is where we may request your help. And if you're concerned about supplies like stool collection kits or media, we can get some of that out to you guys. Currently, we're investigating a Campbell outbreak in the East Central jurisdiction. It's still under investigation, and we don't have much to update you at this point, but just wanted to put that on your radar. Are there any questions?
Yes, this is Brian Lenz with Regional Pathology Services Public Health Lab. So what, with the norovirus outbreaks, what are people seeing as far as what are the reports, what are the symptoms of that? And are they?
So mostly, yeah, great question. So I want to say out of all of our outbreaks, I want to say like 99% of them are norovirus, and that's just because it's very infectious. Most often person-to-person transmission. We typically see both vomiting and diarrhea, short incubation period, about 12 to 48 hours, and then short duration of illness as well, about, you know, anywhere from 12 hours to 48 hours as well. It depends on the strain, and it also depends on the age group. Typically, I want to say more children exhibit symptoms of vomiting, where we see adults diarrhea, but it's not uncommon to see one or the other and or both. And just to let everybody know, the state of Nebraska, we are part of several CDC-funded norovirus programs, so that's why we request this, and we want to confirm the outbreak, confirm that it's norovirus, and we also want to do genotyping on those samples.
Yeah. Thank you. There's just something going around Omaha, at least. That's 12 hours of diarrhea and vomiting, and followed by 24-hour febrile situations.
Yep, sounds like that. And I mean, the lab people are on this call, so you guys know, but stomach flu is not the flu. Stomach flu is norovirus, not related to flu. So yeah,
Exactly.
It's already happening. Typically we see our norovirus season peak between like November and March, but yeah, it's already rolling around. So fun times, everybody wash your hands, stay home if you're sick, you know, the things we should be doing.
Exactly. So a lot going on. Thank you, Sadie. Any other questions from our laboratorians? Thank you, though, for sharing that particular website on the salmonella. That will be interesting to know. I can also post it so everybody has access to it. All right, we'll go on. And I wonder if, I know that Robin's not here, but John or Matt, if you have any updates to share with us. And it doesn't have to be COVID. If you've got anything else interesting, let us know. Do I see John even? All right. Is Derry on? All right, must be a busy Monday. Kristen, I saw you on for TV.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm here.
Sorry about
I
that.
don't think, oh, you're fine. Sorry. I'm at a makeshift desk today. I don't really have any updates. I would just say continue to, let us know if there's suspected cases of TB. We are doing an update for infection control practitioners next Wednesday on TB. And I think that's really about it.
Kristen, I know that our numbers are staying a little bit lower than last year. But one thing that has come up in the last month is the fact that some laboratories are not sure how to ship TB. And that was what I was referring to earlier when I talked about our shipping guide. That particular shipping guide says the MTBs should be shipped, but knowing that some laboratories don't fully identify or confirm a TB, that would require being shipped to your reference laboratory. Well, how do you ship that? So the point is that anything that has the potential or possibility to be a category A has to be shipped as a category A. And granted, I know in the past we've talked about, well, if it grows really rapidly, then that's probably a rapid grower. You can send it as a category B because it's a rapid grower Mycobacterium species. We did learn from some of our experienced TB staff that that's not always true. If you've got a patient that has MTB, that possibly they have a really high mycobacterium load, and that would mean that the organism potentially could grow in your midget within days of being collected. So we think of it as being a slow grower, but if there is so much in the system, it can be picked up much more readily. So we have to think of it that maybe if it is acid-fast positive, your innate test is positive, if you do any other type of molecular testing, then more than likely it should be passed on for confirmation to NPHL. I wanted to address a number of laboratories that may use other outside reference labs, say like ARUP, possibly wherever you might send it. Some of you like, I'm trying to think of the South Dakota, Avera, the Sanford group, or even Banner out of Colorado. Those are groups that maybe those TB specimens are sent outside. Well, we still would like to have the specimen. So wonder if we could work out something such as, yes, we could get it from ARUP or Banner, but on the other hand, if there's a possibility that we could get part of your midget, a couple of mils sent to us, in addition to sending it. So in other words, you're splitting it between us and the your reference lab. Can you send it back to us? That would be maybe helpful as well. But give us a call first. We can see what we can do to assist getting those specimens shared to all the places that need them. We would like to keep it within the state. I do feel that it makes it easier that way. And keep in mind that most specimens are shared, or let's put it this way, if it is going to be supported by the state, then we will pay for that shipping and that confirmation. So there are certain situations that maybe we'll still have you send it onward to your reference laboratory, but that's something that just is a case-by-case situation. So Kristen, thank you. Any questions about TB today?
Karen, I was just going to add that we are working on updating our rules and regulations. And as far as like submitting, we are adding in there, it's not approved, but it is going up the chain to be approved, is to have requirements because of the genotyping requirements, that it will be mandatory for labs to submit it to NPHL. So it will be, we're not quite there yet, but that is what is being proposed and is going up the chain right now to be approved in the rules and regulations, just so everyone knows sort of what you're saying. That's what we would prefer as well.
Yes. I know that Pete, Dr. Iwan, when he has a report that comes across his desk that says that they have identified a positive in the testing here, he does pass that information right away to me. So, of course, Kristen, sometimes you will get wind of it too. We can work with that particular laboratory and see how we can get the part of the specimen shared. So let us know if you have a positive or a suspected TB, and we'll go from there. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, is anybody from the state want to speak? And I don't know, Emily or Pete, if you're on, want to speak to lead testing, since maybe Derry is not on today. I'm not the most qualified to talk on this topic, so I was hoping that somebody else was gutsy enough to do it.
Hey, this is Pete. Emily, do you want to share with some changes that are taking place with our chemistry division here at the Public Health Lab for lead testing? I believe Emily is on.
Sorry about that. I had to step away one moment.
Okay.
What was that, Pete?
You just want to share briefly about some changes taking place here with our chemistry division for lead testing?
Yes. So NPHL has always performed the lead testing that occurred on UNMC campus. The initial processing of the specimens and the reporting actually went through Nebraska Medicine Laboratory, with the actual analysis being performed at NPHL. The entire process is going to be moved into house at NPHL. So your reports may look a little bit different if you are a client of ours in that capacity, and that they will say that the testing was performed at Nebraska Public Health Laboratories at the bottom. We don't anticipate a significant delay in this transition, and we are going live with everything tomorrow.
And if I might reiterate, as a client using our facility for lead screening, really you shouldn't notice any difference in transportation to us. Reports coming back, other than, as Emily suggested, the performing laboratory probably will say Nebraska Public Health Laboratory, but you will get your results in the same form or through the same mechanism as you do now, whether that's fax, mail, or through our Atlas portal. So really, it's a seamless change that's going to be happening.
Absolutely. It shouldn't affect any of you as submitting facilities at all. It's more of an internal change.
And
Yes.
one last thing, we are seeing our lead volume increase due to the lead-2 analyzer recall kit. And we do have capacity and we do have supplies. So our turnaround time should not be affected by that.
That's really, Go
in
ahead.
addition to that, the CDC also released a HON about an expanded recall on the Magellan lead test, which I believe are also point of care tests. So if you need assistance or further information on that, please reach out and we can help you with that as well.
thank you, Emily. I also shared here maybe some educational information on pediatric lead testing, not that it has anything to do with the recall, but I just thought I'd post it there. I could certainly post the other expanded recall too, if anybody wants it. Has there been anything said about changes in levels? Did I see anything about that, or was I just reading about the recall? All right, hearing none, we'll we'll leave it as that. Any questions on LEDs, please? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and move to the MPHL side. Do we have anything we'd like to mention to our laboratorians today? Emily, about volume or any other changes? How are things going for the COVID testing?
COVID testing is still ongoing. We are seeing exclusively Delta variant throughout the state still. We are expanding out on different I shouldn't call them variants, but different mutational analysis seen within the Delta variant that helps us distinguish one Delta from another Delta, but does not include a mutation that could cause concern for vaccine evasion at this time. Also, I know I spoke to a number of you since the last call about availability of testing. We understand that there are shortages, critical shortages of COVID testing supplies across the state. For the most part, we cannot assist with providing those as we're experiencing those same shortages as well. But if there is any way that NPHL can assist with testing so that you can conserve your testing supplies that you have on hand for emergent needs, please let us know. We are happy to assist that testing. Obviously, we won't be able to provide a 2-hour turnaround time just due to proximity within the state. But if it is a non-emergent test, we can assist with that until your supply chains have come up again. I would also like to note that the state has recently approved the purchase of a very large volume of Binax Now tests to assist with testing across the state. So I'm hoping that we'll receive information on that shortly and that those can be dispersed before too long so that they can help with those critical testing shortages.
That's awesome, Emily. I had not heard that either. So very good news. If anybody has any other questions, certainly you can email Emily or I and let us know if you have any questions. Be honest with you, if you don't have our email addresses, just put it to nphl@unmc.edu, and that is going to get to all of us here at NPHL. So with that, I'm going to skip down. Brian, I don't know if you have anybody else on client services. Are there any other issues we need to address? Any courier questions from our laboratorians that we can also answer? Like to bring those up.
Karen, this is Paul from Regional Pathology Services.
Hi.
Were you, hello, talking with Kim from Gordon Memorial Hospital at all?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to share with you the situation there. This is where, because NPHL has had some some courier problems with the very western part of the state, they have been working a system by which all of the specimens from Gordon, let me see, I had written it down, Gordon, Alliance, Chadron, Bridgeport, Sydney, and Kimball are all coming to coming to Scotts Bluff. And Scotts Bluff is then passing them on to North Platte, and then North Platte, of course, catches the NPH courier from there. Is that correct? That's anyway what I have learned. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that even the outside of the NPHL structure of couriers, that the laboratories make sure and use category B boxes, because that is what's required. And I'll be talking about that next. And those particular specimens will then will be passed on. They do want some sort of a batch list to be on the inside of the, not the inside of the package, it shouldn't be on the package at all. It just needs to be a list that goes to Scottsbluff. If you're one of the laboratories I just mentioned, that particular list then is entered into their system, but we do not want you to put it on the outside of the box. Of course, that's a HIPAA regulation. Only the shipping paper saying what you're shipping should be on the outside of the box. So do remember that. But they do need it to go ahead and fill out their paperwork from there. And then, of course, it'll come to NPHL. Any questions about that particular strategy in doing couriers?
So you're asking, so if I recall right, we had, and we do have in the state, something called the Nebraska Public Health Lab Courier Network, which involves ground couriers through regional laboratory and other partners like Physicians Laboratory, Scottsbluff, and hospitals that have courier systems that stretch out. So
Right.
What we're talking about now is Scottsbluff and their outreach program,
Right.
which goes to Gordon, Shadron, Alliance, Kimball, and it's their actual courier that picks up the rest of their clinical lab work and brings it back to Scottsbluff to be tested.
Exactly.
So just to clarify, we're asking now one of the Scottsbluff's Regional West Medical Center clients to actually package their COVID samples differently.
Yeah, because here's the story on that, and I'll go into that, because the specimens, and let me just go through this and maybe it'll make more sense. I am bringing back up, let me go into this new share that I want to talk about. I am reviewing the DOT safety advisory that came out of June of last year. And that is something that DOT has strictly stressed, that they are finding that couriers and shippers have been improperly marking or packaging diagnostic samples, or diagnostic is an old term, surprised they used it here, but a patient specimen that was offered for transportation. And what they would offer, what they're finding is that it includes vial samples that were packaged without rigid outer packaging. And so that has brought the huge question of what is considered rigid. I think your couriers will say, well, my cooler is rigid, but I have done some further research with DOT. And as we go on here to find that one of the packaging requirements for COVID in all category B is that it has to be properly triple packaged, even before it gets to the courier. All right. I realize they're taking a bio bag, which is a secondary packaging, and giving it to the courier, but those couriers are not, they're not, the word's not qualified, but they're not exempt, or they're not exclusive. So that means that it has to be fully packaged, and that's okay, because they're there to do a job. It's just that we have to do it a little differently compared to, say, like Omaha, who has exclusive couriers, who can just take a bio bag and put it in theirs, because they're not regulated. They are exclusive, therefore they are not regulated. So I'm again worried about DOT actually getting out there and doing inspections. I did call DOT to find out what the true definition of rigid is. In this safety advisory, they talk about that the completed packaging must be designated, constructed maintain, filled, and close, so under conditions of transport, no release of hazardous materials happen. And so they talk about how it's got to, as it says, it reduced, must not be substantially reduced by temperature change, shock, pressure, or other conditions. And I know that many will say, not just RPS, but other couriers will tell me that those coolers are drop shipped. Well, maybe they are, but I don't know if it is drop shipped by the people that qualify for official drop ship testing.
Drop testing, you mean?
Drop testing, I'm sorry, yes. And also in the fact that it has to be pressure changes, that's what the official testing it does. The certification of boxes has to have the tested the pressure change, the shock, and as well as that drop ship. Now,
so I guess the point I just, I'm not, obviously I see what you're saying, but just directionally, the couriers, I believe, are owned and operated by Regional West Medical Center that service those hospitals.
But they are not exclusive in that they're paid by.
No,
Regional.
I know, but that's
So,
a conversation that you need to have with Regional West if you're recommending that they change their internal processes.
I have talked to them about it,
Okay.
and they are going to go ahead and just forward these packages onward. That they had agreed to that, no problems asked.
Okay.
Yep, and therefore, yep, they're basically fulfilling the DOT requirements. And again, I want to go back to that definition. Oops, a new share back to the agenda. What I have done when I finally did call DOT, they did share with me that rigid packages are defined in the Code of Federal Regulation in 71, and it's pages 322, 4, 4, and 4.5. There it talks about it has to be rigid. To be rigid, it has to be metal, hard plastic, certified cardboard. So it's got to be certified to handle, again, a certain pressure, things like that. So we can verify it by that CFR. And I have reached out to some of those laboratories. Some of them already do have our Category B boxes, just to make sure that they're being shipped that way. What I realize is that we also need to work with the couriers and to minimize their volume. They don't want to be taking 1,000 boxes, and I understand that process. But with COVID starting to decrease, I hope that we can do it the right way without overburdening them, trying to find the best way to do it. We're even trying, rather than styrofoam, most of those insulated boxes have styrofoam in it. We may try the silver, what do you call it? They're the silver thermal envelopes, which guarantee keeping a specimen cold for 24 to 48 hours. But that still has to be in a rigid box. It just means it can be smaller. So we continue to work on this process. I did want to share in that document that the one thing that they say, and of course I've already switched back to the agenda. Where is my, but I do read here another part toward the end reads overpacking marking. So they talk about the courier's bag being an overpack that serves as an overpack. But we've also learned in our packaging and shipping training that overpacks need to be labeled the same as the actual box itself. So that's something that I think DOT says they feel that the courier packaging or that soft-sided case that they use is considered an overpack. And they say are placed in an overpack, such as a shipping bag. So I think that they leave the writing really loose. They don't establish, detail by detail, but I think they do leave it loose to interpretation. If I need to, I can do what is called with DOT. I can write a letter of interpretation, which would then confirm this this whole point that I have made here. So if I need to go to that, I will say, but I'm thinking onward beyond COVID. I'm thinking on to any category B specimen, influenza, whatever. This needs to be done in a proper rigid box, and also to confirm that the temperature is reliable in that box. If we had a box with the courier, whether it's kept at temperature or not, it may be, but that's not guaranteed. So we're just guaranteeing that the category B boxes will keep that specimen at the proper temperature. So that being said, are there any other questions about shipping issues, couriers?
Well, I'm glad we got all of those bases touched on. I specifically was bringing up Gordon Memorial Hospital because this month alone, they're already missing 14 specimens. So whatever system they're using is not working.
Well, up until this week. So
starting on October 8th, we are missing. I just got informed about it today.
Specimens.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the 8th, and then the additional.
Okay, so it was just last week that I talked to them. What was happening is that Scottsbluff was they'd open up the package, NPHL package, and package them. And I do worry that that might be a DOT regulation problem because it is addressed to NPHL. So we'll keep an eye on it, Paul, and see if the boxes themselves aren't getting to us. Maybe we need to do some further looking if it's the boxes or if it was the repackaging that you're missing.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we're going to credit all of these as lost here.
Okay. All right. Well, and we don't want that. So we'll continue to make sure it gets done properly. I know that Gordon has a situation where they don't even have FedEx. So we're going to probably have to work a little bit more closely to figure out what kind of shipping we can do for them. So, all right. Anybody in the laboratories have questions? Does anybody have questions on New Alert? All right. So the only other thing, Pete, Emily, I'm going to open up the mic. Do you guys have any other items besides COVID to share?
I think you covered it, Karen, pretty much. Might share that we've doubled our capacity for sequencing in the public health lab. Now doing over 300 sequences a week. So that's good with new instrumentation. Our volumes considered for COVID continue to be up and down depending on the day. We aren't doing surveillance testing, but we're doing a lot of outbreak investigations, as well as some vaccine breakthroughs, hospitalizations. So we don't know from one day to the next. We might get 100 one day, we might get 500 the next. So it's pretty up and down for us. but our capacity could be much higher than what we're doing. So we're available to help the labs where we can, as Emily stated. So that's kind of where we're at. I think, was it Sadie talked about salmonella? Our salmonella foodborne pathogens sequencing is up as well. So the volume there. We saw a lot of West Nile this year, working with the CDC to get samples sent to them for additional testing. We are preparing for influenza coming up in the fall. We don't know what that's going to be like. Chances are that we could have a higher, well, certainly higher than last year's influenza season. So we're going to wait and see what that does for the laboratory capacity as well. So we're keeping busy. We expect the volumes to continue on into the respiratory season. So that's kind of where we're at, Karen.
Yeah, that's good to know. As far as West Nile, I know there had been alert issued where there were 2 deaths in the state. Has that increased? Are we?
I don't know about deaths, but we have seen maybe 3 to 4 times the number of West Niles we saw last year. So it's up quite a bit.
Okay.
Also, to match that, we are continuing to do mosquito testing as well throughout the state, certain areas of the state. So we're seeing positive mosquito pools as well. So that's indicative of why we're seeing these human infections showing up. And they will keep coming until we get a good frost. So this is the time of year West Nile tends to show up.
Yes. Yeah, very true. Any other questions that you would like to bring up? Any issues you've experienced in your laboratories? All right. Well, I thought maybe toward the end here, I would go ahead and just share with you some of the training ideas that we have out. I do know that we'll be getting that challenge set out today, and we'll be able to review the process here in about a week and a half. I also plan to do a gram stain challenge for you laboratorians who might only do blood cultures but don't do identification. We'll keep up that quality assurance to make sure that you feel comfortable with gram stains. I also hope this year that because packaging and shipping has been such a huge deal, that we're going to really dive into packaging and shipping in the November. Not sure if, we used to have the 8-hour classes, but that's really tough for people right now. And I am fully aware of that. So we might break up the training. We could, I'm totally open to ideas on how anybody wants to go through it. It will be the type of training that you can be certified. In the past, we used to have an APHL speaker come. She has since retired, and we have had to go to alternate methodologies. There is, CDC does have an online class that will certify you. However, I don't recommend it for your brand new staff. So if this is the first time you've taken it, I wouldn't recommend that. But if you need recertification, please look into that. I will be able to share that with you. Make sure that all your staff is up to date in their shipping certifications, because again, they are double checking on us. I think that the CDC does keep tabs on us as to how many we train and how many of you keep certified. And last but not least, something we haven't done for the last 5 years since Ebola, 6 years now, is the chemical terrorism training. We do have 18 laboratories out there that at one time had big boxes to handle any, and it wasn't necessarily a terrorism event. It could be any event, accidental or what, that tended to be more chemical. And so I think in December, we will start those discussions and do some review of what we did back long ago. So any other questions? If not, I just want to remind you our next meeting is Monday, October 18th. I will be sending out reminders. And before you sign off, please, please, please go ahead and put your name into the chat box. I would just want to make sure that you get notified, or not notified, but documented that you attended today. Emily does have one other comment. She says, if anybody has positive influenza specimens, thank you, Emily. Yes, I meant to mention that earlier. If you have a positive influenza, please reach out to us, anybody here at NPHL, as we would like to confirm these. Usually the first few could be false positives, but on the other hand, it could be something very different than what we're used to seeing. So do let us know first by email to nphl@unmc.edu if you could, so we are watching for it, and send that specimen our way. We really truly do want to know what is circulating. Any other reminders? All right, well, we hope to see you in a month again, but if something comes up before, please email us, call us, whatever way is easiest to get a hold of us. So thank you, everyone, and take care. Giving you back 9 minutes. Bye-bye now.